Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started here.
Awesome.
So, guys, going to cover a few housekeeping tips as we get started with today's webinar. First off, we are recording the webinar, so tomorrow all the registrants will be emailed a copy of the slide deck and the recording if you want to come back to this, watch it again, or share it with some of the people on your team. And of course, feel free to ask questions. We love your interaction and your feedback. If you have a specific question, though, please place it in the Q&A box at the bottom. That way we make sure we don't lose it in the chat, which can get a little busy. Please engage with us on social. QGive is on social media. We just encourage you, tweet highlights from the webinar, share what you've learned so that other fundraisers can learn about our webinar program and hear some of Rachel's great tips. And some of you may be new to us. Maybe this is your first QGive webinar that you've attended. A little background on QGive. We are a fundraising technology company based in hot Central Florida, and we provide technology for over 13,000 fundraising professionals in North America, including text fundraising tools, peer-to-peer fundraising, auctions, and donation forms. And we regularly host webinars like this one to help our clients and just our friends in the nonprofit community learn more about fundraising and different best practices. So we're happy to have you here. And now I'm going to turn it over to our incredible host, Rachel.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to get to be with everybody. Are you okay if I go ahead and share my screen? So
go for it.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna flip on over here and flip past that awesome intro. I am so thrilled to get to be your guest today. I absolutely love QGive and I love working with them. They're amazing. And so I'm excited to get to talk to you guys about end of year fundraising. My background's in fundraising. I started a nonprofit to empower girls in math, science, engineering, and technology called Girls Start. And I'm excited to announce that Girls Start celebrating its 25th year of existence and is still thriving and successful. And what I do now is help fundraisers with their fundraising, which I absolutely love. And I especially love making fundraising less stressful, more enjoyable, and more lucrative. And that's what we're going to be doing today with reference to end of year fundraising. You can grab today's slides at rachelmuir.com/handouts. You're going to get them from QGive as well with the recording. We're going to talk about what to do and what not to do to raise more money. I'm going to give you the #1 tip to warm up your donors. I've got a before and after appeal makeover. Who doesn't love an awesome makeover? I feel like there's a lot. It's just eye candy to see appeal makeovers, and it can do a lot to help you think about what you can do to make yours better. I've got an awesome checklist. I'm going to pop it in the chat for you, friends. Alana says I need a cute haircut for my makeover. I love makeovers. Any makeover, someone's home, someone's hair, their outfits. Oh, so fun. Well, we're going to be talking about some end of year makeovers, and I'm excited for you to see those. And of course, I'm going to be handling your questions. And I know when it comes to end of year, people have a lot of questions, so don't be shy. Post them in the Q&A because, like Alana said, Milena said, we are going to be chatting you up in the chat box, and it can get kind of crazy in there. So just pop your questions into the Q&A. I'll make sure to go over them. This is your checklist. I just put this in the chat. And if you have your appeal written and ready to go, this is a great checklist to run it through, or a good checklist for you to check out while you're writing your appeal. I have a program called League of Extraordinary Fundraisers, and we're actually doing a super awesome workshop next Thursday on writing better emails and appeals with a fundraising copywriter, and 3 lucky winners get live feedback on their fundraising appeal. So you should check it out. It's very inexpensive. It's $49 a month. And it's a really fun way to get a very affordable fundraising training. Yay, Alana. I love that. I'm also doing a rewrite, which is where you work on your appeal and submit it, and then you get it rewritten. So if you're stressing out about your appeal and you want a professional copywriter to rewrite it for you, that's where I got these makeovers that I've done. You can check it out at rachelmuir.com. So, oh, yay, I see my polls in here. Okay, I'm going to launch it. Yippee doo-dah. Okay, here's my first poll, friends. How ready is your end of year appeal? We've got done, as in I've written it, I've proofed it, I've tested it, I've scheduled it. Yay, there's 2 people that have it done. I am proud of you. I am so, oh, 3. Yippee. And then this kind of neck and neck, about 28% of you have a draft. I'm sorry, that's 32% have a draft, and 39% of people have not even started. Actually, 41% of people have 42%. This is going up. People are being more honest. 42% of people, 43%. My goodness, I'm going to take a photo of this. 43% of you, my fundraising friends, have actually not even 44%, almost. Yay, Ruth. Welcome to QGive. 46%, friends. I'm going to share this poll now. Oh my God, my heart is racing. 46% of you have not started yet. If you're wondering why my heart is racing and you're like, Rachel, take a chill pill, it's because I know how much is writing on your end of your fundraising, and I know how much money there is to be raised. And I want you to be successful. So thank you for being with Milena and I today, because we are excited to have you, and we're going to give you some tips to help you have a really great time at end of year. Okay, so here's my next poll. I only have 2 polls. Humor me and tell me how many direct mail and email appeals for end of year fundraising that you send out. How many appeals are you sending out? I've got, it looks like a lot of you right now, the majority of you are only sending out 2 to 3. Some of you are only sending out 1. I want pretty much everybody, if you're sending out 5 or less, I want you to send out more. Okay, I want, no, Linda's not sending out any end of year appeals. What's going on, Linda? You're missing out. This is the most generous time of year. Many organizations raise 30% of their entire budget just at end of year. You don't want to miss out on this opportunity, and you're learning a lot of great stuff today. Okay, this is mail and email. See, mail and email. Okay, both of them together. Okay, so I want everyone who's sending 5 appeals or less to try to send significantly more, as in at least 3 more appeals. And those of you that are sending 6 to 8, no, this is how many appeals, mail and email, do you send? Joan, not how many people get them. How many appeals, mail and email, do you send? Oh, Katie is just learning how to interview for the first time. Okay, so I'm going to share these results here. And 37% of you are only sending 2 to 3 appeals. You need to be sending a lot more. You should be sending out, I mean, you could send 3 email appeals on December 31st alone. You just want to take donors off the merry-go-round if they give to you. If you're sending 3 appeals in one day for Giving Tuesday, or 3 appeals in one day for your last day, December 31st, you just want to take them off the merry-go-round, meaning if I give to you in the morning on Giving Tuesday, I shouldn't get 2 more appeals. Okay, so we're going to dig right in. I think I already shared the results of poll number 2. We're going to dig right in and go back into giving you some tips. Okay, so say yes if you can see 7 appeal mistakes and how to fix them. Just type yes into the chat if you can see that. Yay, okay, perfect. So we're going to dig right in here. This is a mistake that is really, really common. And there's something called cognitive ease. Cognitive ease, my fundraising friends, is Pinterest. Pinterest is so beautiful. You know, it's like when I clean out when I organize a closet, when I organize like my spice cabinet, I can just open the door and look at it and take deep breaths and be like, ah, I feel less stressed out already, right? That is cognitive ease. Pinterest is pure cognitive ease. And cognitive friction is when things are hard to read and more challenging. Okay, that's cognitive friction. So yeah, so you want to have short sentences, large font, as in 14-point font or larger, and you don't want to use a great wall of text. That's not friendly. It's not easy for someone to read. You want to have a dramatic headline that draws the reader in, and then you want to have short sentences that are well spaced, like 1.5-point spacing, so that it's easy to read. This is really overwhelming. Also, photos of really happy people that don't need my help are not going to inspire me to give, my fundraising friends. You want to have photos, your best photos in your direct mail appeal and your email appeals. You want to have someone looking directly at the camera. This is an example of a really dramatic headline. She woke up on her 45th birthday and couldn't walk. You can help. When Susie woke up on her 45th birthday, she'd forgotten how to walk. She'll never forget that day or the days that follows, a blur of confusion and fear. You're taking me right into the action. I feel like I'm there with Susie. I'm experiencing what she's going through. Okay, a dramatic headline, a photo, ideally someone looking directly at the camera to get the reader's attention. That headline is your hook and it draws you in. Okay, Colleen asked, how do we navigate around the fear of donors unsubscribing if they get too many emails from us? We could do a whole workshop, and maybe we should just on email. Do not live in fear of people unsubscribing from your email list, my fundraising friends. Every single person who's worried, I'm going to send 3 emails and people are going to unsubscribe. No, you're not. If those people weren't going to give to you anyway, and they probably just don't want to be on your email list. It isn't about the number of people you have on your email list. It's about the engagement that you can have with these people. And you want to have good engagement with them by sending them compelling, well-written emails. And as I said earlier, taking them off the merry-go-round of emails from you if they give that day. Like if you're participating in Giving Tuesday, and type yes into the chat if you're participating in Giving Tuesday, then, and you're going to send out 3 appeals that day, you're not going to send me 2 appeals if I gave to you that morning. Yay, Jessica and Aubrey, Cora, Lynn, Rebecca, Olivia, way to go. Do not live in fear, Colleen Fisher, of sweating your unsubscribes. They weren't going to give to you anyway. You need to send well-written emails that have a compelling hook. Here's some tips, as I mentioned, to boost your readability: 14 to 15-point serif font, 1.5 line spacing, short sentences, paragraphs, indentation, simple syntax, strategic bolding and underlining. This is very, very easy to read. I mean, look how easy this is to read compared to that, right? Which one would you rather read? You'd probably rather read this. It's very, very easy to read. Tip 2. Your reply device, my fundraising bestie, Julie Cooper, who's actually doing an awesome workshop with me coming up. And someone asked in the chat about how do I get an appeal template? We're actually have an appeal template in the workshop for direct mail as well as for email. Julie Cooper, who I adore, is going to be doing a workshop with me next Thursday. And she's going to be doing some live feedback on 3 winners fundraising appeals. I'm bragging about Julie Cooper. She's an amazing copywriter and human sunshine. And she, kind of like Milena, is also a human sunshine. But for Julie, she believes that the most important part of the entire fundraising appeal is the reply device. And in your reply device, and I say a lot of people get this really wrong, the first thing that you could do that would sabotage a response on your appeal is not including a reply device. If you're doing direct mail, you need to have a reply device and an envelope. That is what is going to get people. You don't make them go hunt for an envelope. Don't make them go hunt and do this themselves. Make it super, super easy. You need to have a checkbox with a call to action that relates to your appeal. This is one for an organization, Stop Abuse for Everyone, called SAVE, here in my hometown of Austin, Texas. Yes, Kelly, I want to help those trapped in abusive situations find hope and heal. Like, you have a call to action in your appeal. You know, I'm asking Milena, I know you care about unicorns. The local herd is in trouble and you can help. And so in my reply device, it's going to be, yes, Rachel, I want to help hurt and injured unicorns get saved right now, right? So it's the call to action of what you're asking them to do in the appeal. You want to have your donor's name on there. If you're doing a match, you want to do the math for the donor like they have in this appeal. Don't make the donor do it themselves. Make it super, super easy. And yes, you can have a URL. Yes, you can also have a QR code. Here's another thing that I see go wrong in end of year fundraising. People using statistics in their appeal. Statistics don't motivate people to give. Statistics actually suppress people from taking action. If you've got some statistics, you can do your best with having a few of those in your annual report. I'm still not a ginormous fan of statistics because they do depress emotion, but they absolutely have no business in your appeal letter. If you don't believe me, here's proof. Okay, talking about all the kids in Africa, even though there are a lot of kids facing lots of problems in Africa, for Save the Children raised half as much money as just talking about one child. Yes, I love what Philip said. The dear friend opening is not personal. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that people made, which is nuts. And bananas. Storytelling really matters in fundraising. And it's, all fundraising really is, and I'm going to pop this checklist in here that I have on this slide. All fundraising really is a quest for empathy. And it's your storytelling, like that storytelling you just saw about Susie with Parkinson's, who got diagnosed at age 45 and woke up and realized she'd forgotten how to walk. That's an example of relatable and immersive storytelling. So you want to tell a story in your appeal. And in addition to this story about the clients that one client that you're helping, the change that you're trying to make, you want to also put your donor in that story. But I'm going to talk about that in a second. This is an example of an appeal focusing on the organization and not the donor. Okay, so I kind of think about this as like, this is an example of an appeal, really like as a report card. This appeal reads a bit like an annual report intro might read. Okay, like you need to have a compelling problem that the donor can give money to solve. It isn't about like, hey, what a great year. We did this and we did this and we did this. It's not a report card. Another thing you may notice that is wrong with this appeal is having a list of your board members. This has actually been studied in direct mail research, and I'm citing Jeff Brooks here. He wrote a fantastic book. He's written many fantastic books, but one of my favorites that's about direct mail is How to Turn Your Words into Money. So I highly recommend you check that out. Please post your questions in the Q&A. I'm going to grab this one from Rebecca. She asked, where do you purchase mail list? So I'm gonna tell you that mail list, the book is How to Turn Your Words into Money by Jeff Brooks. If you purchase a mail list right now, I don't even know if you would have time to get it out in your appeal for end of year. But I can tell you that that's an acquisitional mailing, people who've never given to you. And it's the acquisition is a long game, okay? A long game. So that's a few things I would caution you about. And Katie, if you want to help Rebecca, feel free. This is an example of focusing on the donor and not the organization. Again, this isn't about how great the organization is, because if the organization is doing really great, why do you need me in the donor? Like, what on earth can I do to help you if you're already doing so great? This is an example of someone who is clearly in need. Their eyes, unfortunately, are not looking directly at the camera, but it's such a powerful photo. They've got a deadline on here. The deadline is bolded. It's in red. This is like 14-point font, maybe more. It's easy to read. We've got this dramatic headline. How much is home worth in hard times? And then immersive storytelling. Can you imagine being a homeless mom in the middle of the pandemic? And then on this other page, we've got your gift can help. When you give a gift, you're part of something special. You do this, you do that. You ensure we don't have to turn away people in need. You offer hope. You say, I care about you. You're worth it. Lynn said, I would bump up the photo and do a lot less text. This is actually written by a copywriter. And this is actually a totally fantastic example of text in a direct mail appeal. One sentences that are 1 to 3 sentences long, strategic use of bolding and underlining. But this is what I'd like for you to see in this is that this is an example of focusing on the donor, putting the donor in the story and reflecting on what an amazing person the donor is by putting them in that story. You offer hope. You say, I care about you. You're worth it. That's really reflecting back on, oh my God, I'm a really awesome person. It isn't just, we're not just like spotlighting what the donor can do. We're reflecting back on what a good person they are when they take this action, because your communications, literally every piece of communications you send your donors is a mirror, my fundraising friends, where they see themselves. How are they going to look? Are they going to look awesome? How are they going to look? So that's a really good example of putting your donor in the story and making your donor look like the generous, kind, compassionate human being that they are. It's not about you and how great you are, because if you talk all about how great the organization is, you leave out any problems for your donors to solve. Your appeal is about how wonderful the donor is. Who's the hero in the story? The org or the donor? Type into the chat and tell me, who is the hero in the appeal? Is it the organization or is it the donor? Yay, Rebecca. Yay, Brett. Yay, Claire. This is from How to Turn Your Words into Money by Jeff Brooks, which I just cited a minute ago. When you see a homeless person sitting on a park bench or sleeping under a bridge, you wonder what you should do. That's the kind of person you are. Like, I feel great already. This is an example of donor-centric fundraising copy. You could use this copy for my friend who's thinking about buying a list, in which case she would be doing an acquisitional mailing to people who are not donors but are prospects. This is an example of using donor-centered copy in an acquisitional piece. Yay, Lynn said, this is beautiful. I'm so glad you like it, Lynn. That's a great book. Any book, well, of all the books I've written by copywriters, they were all pretty great. Okay, let's go to Stranger Things here. I cannot wait for the final season of Stranger Things to come out. I love Susie. I love that. I think I had that nightgown when I was a kid. Those flannel, like, I think they were like lands or something. Anyway, I love, this was a few seasons ago when her and Dustin sang their never ending story. I want you to have a story without an ending. I don't want you to tell a story that ends. I want you to tell an unfinished story. Alana, just look up Jeff Brooks and you'll see all of his books. Just look him up by the author. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Jessica. Tell an unfinished story, because that an unfinished story is an opportunity for the donor to swoop into the story as the hero. Okay, this is an example of a story that's finished. If a story's finished, the donor doesn't have anything to do. Every day for Kia was a struggle. I can't imagine how bad she felt. She couldn't provide for her kids. That's when Suited for Change, the organization, and you changed everything. So it's like, we don't need to give Suited for Change the credit here. We just need to give the donor the credit. Kia was referred to us, and now she's working the job she always wanted. Okay, that's just that story goes into the stewardship pile. Kia's awesome story about how the fantastic donor helped her. That is in the stewardship piece. Okay, because I need an unfinished story about someone like Kia who is struggling, and I'm going to want to help them and do something. Again, feel free to type your questions, my fundraising friends, into the chat. I love this photo of this dog. I actually have a dog on my lap right now. He's snoring. When he wakes up, you'll see him. He is invited to all the webinars because he snores. Well, I mean, you can't hear him, but he doesn't bark. So he's a sweetheart. You'll see him in a second. So one of my fundraising friends mentioned this in the chat, like how there was an appeal that said, "Dear friend." Sometimes, believe it or not, and you're about to see this now, sometimes I literally get mail addressed to Rachel Muir and my address, and I open it up, and would you believe it says, "Dear friend?" Like, really? Dear friend? Yeah, working from home is the best, Jessica. Here's the checklist, you guys. I mentioned it just a second ago. You know their name, pretty please with sugar on top. Let's use their name. Let's make them feel the gift of being known by us, making your donor feel, oh, he's saying hi. I think he heard you. I think he heard Lynn talking about her dog. And I think he heard Jessica. And this is Max. He popped up to say hi. He is cute. Now he's going to go sleep on the couch. Okay. um, don't use friend. And for heaven's sake, don't use friends plural. That's like, I'm not taking any time here. I'm not taking any time to, and don't also, please don't use your letterhead with your board members. That has been shown to suppress giving. This is something else that I don't want you to do. This says, if you've contributed to our annual appeal in the past, thank you. No, 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 no. We want our donors to feel the gift of being known by you. It is the greatest gift you can give your donor. Address them by their first name and don't put in some blanket kind of ask where it's like, hey, if you've ever given to us before, thanks. No, you know, if they've given to you before, you can send them a segment in appeal that says, because of your generous gift last year, blank, we need your help now doing blank. But what I'd rather you do instead is my number one tip today, which is doing a like a thanking campaign, like a thanks for giving campaign to thank your donors ahead of you sending them the appeal. Now I just put the Aloha Works. My friend Alana is in Hawaii. Doesn't everyone just want to be in Hawaii? Oh my goodness. I want you to have a really clear offer in your appeal. This is so important. And so many people get this wrong. It should be so easy for me to understand from reading your appeal what my gift is going to do and how my gift is going to help. Your life-saving gift of $100 right now will give a baby all the vaccines that she needs to be healthy and start preschool, right? Like donors need to, in order to be the hero, they need a problem that they can solve. And your offer is the problem and their gift is the solution. Lynn asked, what if donors gave their company name or no name at all during an event? You're sending, I mean, that, you know, we're talking about addressing letter. We're talking about mailing appeal letters, and we're saying you don't need to use your board members' letterhead in mailing an appeal letter. I hope that helps, Lynn. And Katie asked, if you're trying to raise operating funds for end of year, what kind of appeal offer works best? We don't want to say it's going to food purchases if we need to pay salaries. Well, this is where this is the beauty of creative accounting, okay? Because there are lots of different ways. This is such a juicy question, and I'm going to flag that. We're going to flag this one for the end because there's actually 3 different ways you can handle this. So it doesn't have to be the unsexy thing of operating funds. If you like, you know, I mean, you know, it doesn't, you don't single out your electricity bill. Your electricity bill should be built into your program cost. All of your operating costs can be built into your program costs, and you can say, hey, your, you know, $500 contribution will do this, your $100 contribution will do this, your, you know, build those in together. And you can also say something like in your reply device, your gift goes to help the X program and all the work of sweaters for penguins. Okay, that's another way that you can handle that. I'll talk about that more at the end. That's a great question, Katie. I love that. Jessica said, I know donors want to be the hero, but can you be successful with the people you serve being the heroes? You can A/B test. The beautiful thing about fundraising, friends, and you're looking at an example of a really great offer right now. Immediate interest in the organization Sweaters for Penguins, Katie. I love it. The beautiful thing about fundraising is that you can test everything. So if you're feeling like, I'm not sure if I want to follow Rachel's advice and put the donor in the story and make them the hero, or if I want to try making my person that I'm helping the hero. The thing about making the person you're helping be the hero, if they're the hero in the story, it means they've already been helped and they're already doing great and the donor's help isn't needed. So that's my first like no on you doing that. But if you don't believe me, you can test it yourself, and you can test an appeal where you make the donor the hero and you tell them, you reflect on what a kind and compassionate person they are by caring about this, and you tell them exactly how their gift can be used. And then you could write your other like wild idea or your board member's wild idea, if you don't believe me, and then you can come back to me and let me know which one worked better. I have a really strong sense of what will work better. But if you don't believe me, you can always test it. This is a really good example of telling the donor what their money will do. $50 does this, $100 does this. Movement therapy classes are so important with every person living with Parkinson's. This is back to the appeal of Susie, who couldn't walk. There's another appeal on the right. This is for a youth leadership organization. You can get more young people serving now. $30 buys supplies for a volunteer activity. $120 enrolls a child in the 5-week program. $300 hires and trains an activity leader. So this is a real description of what will happen. And back to my friend's question about operating. So your operating expenses should be bundled into this, right? I mean, you should be able to do a analysis of the work that you're doing and the expenses that you have, and all of this should be able to be in there. Your salaries for your program staff, your all of that should be able to be in here. If you don't have an offer, you don't have a reason to give. And the offer is what tells the donor how their wallet can change a fate. Jessica said, thanks for the perspective. I have heard from others who want to move away from donor-centric fundraising. You know what? Test it. That's the thing. You can always test everything. I really feel like so many fundraisers beat themselves up thinking, oh, I can't do this. For example, at the beginning of this workshop, we talked a little bit about being stressed out. Oh, I'm sending too many appeals. You know what, you guys? Your donors do not read all of your appeals. If you don't believe me, I invite you to open up your email program right now and type into the chat what your open rate is. If you know what your average email open rate is, type it into the chat, my fundraising friend, so that we can all, because the average, okay, Mark is doing pretty good. Mark's at 46%. That's pretty high. Karina's at 46%. Okay. 38%, 35 to 40%. Alana, you can't, 103% is impossible on an email open rate, Alana. You might have been meaning to type like 13% or something, because that isn't possible. No, I know it's Hawaii, but there's no such thing as like having more than 100% open rate. Okay, that's that's mathematically like not possible. But I love Hawaii. I want to go to Hawaii. I mean, Hawaii sounds amazing, and I believe that anything's possible in Hawaii, but that isn't really possible. So the average nonprofit has an open rate of around like 25 to 30%. Okay, so here's what I want you to know about that. That means that only 25% of your emails were read. That means 75% of your donors didn't read that email. They didn't read it. They didn't even see it. So when you have anxiety about sending more emails, remember that it isn't, don't be thinking about your open rate. Think about your unopen rate. Okay. Just think about it from that perspective. And please type your questions into the chat, because we're about to pop into the Q&A, and I'm going to answer all of them. So if you've put one in the chat and I haven't answered it yet, or you have more questions about something I've already answered, or a new question, don't hesitate to pop it into the Q&A. So here's some tips for your email appeal. Write like you talk. Put extra attention to your subject line and your PS, because people skim. They skim in direct mail too. Think about personalizing the subject line with a first name if you can. I have a healthy obsession with writing email, and I also have a healthy obsession with personalizing my email. Type me into the chat if you've received my emails. Yay. Tara Peterson said, I love your emails and your lowercase emails, Rachel. I have a healthy obsession with email. If you download something from our website and get an email from me, you'll discover my obsession in real life. But personalize the subject line with the first name if you can, and you can be strategic and creative with this. It doesn't have to be that if you don't have their first name, you automatically use friend. It can be you. So be thoughtful, or it can be a blank space. Be thoughtful and strategic about it. It needs to come from a human being with a real email address. I don't want it to come from do not reply at familyprogramshawaii.org. Okay, no, it needs to come from Alana at familyprogramshawaii.org. Keep it skimmable, even shorter than direct mail here. In direct mail, we can go up to 3 sentences in a paragraph, but in email, we're going to be even shorter. Tie the ask to something tangible, like you saw in that offer. In an email, you need to have a very clear call to action, and you need to ask 3 times in the email. You need to ask 3 times on average on each page in direct mail. If you've got a question, don't hesitate to type it into the Q&A so we can be sure and cover it at the end. Be ready with your thanks, your thank you landing page, your email thank you autoresponder, cards. If you're doing cards at end of year, this is a busy time, and I want you to be ready with things. And I really want everyone who's enthusiastically participating in Giving Tuesday to be super ready with your thanks, because I want you to turn around. I want you to thank those donors. I want you to tell them how, then I want you to tell them how their gift is making impact. Then, yes, you bet, both I and all my friends at QGive definitely want you to ask them again at end of year. And they're going to be ready to be asked again at end of year. And they're going to be ready to give generously at end of year if you thank them appropriately and you've told them how their gift has made a difference. Because we want you to have the most successful ever end of year fundraising. And I'm going to type in here, this is a link to today's slides. This is a program I was mentioning if you want a little more help from Rachel. We're actually going to be we're doing some sessions with a copywriter. This is a before and after. If you join, you actually get a whole lookbook of appeal makeovers, which I think you can learn a lot from an appeal makeover, but this is the before on the left and the after on the right. So you can see that the after is a lot more cognitive ease, no cognitive friction, short sentences, indented, alternating use of bold as well as underlining, much larger font, easier to read. So tabs, yeah, you want to indentation. Yay, Alana, you want to use indentation in your direct mail. Pretty please with sugar on top makes it easier to read. Great example of cognitive ease. So my number 1 tip to help you warm up your donors right now so that they give very generously to you is thank them. Warm them up with gratitude. Halloween is almost here. Then it's going to be Thanksgiving. Have a thanks for giving. Have people hop in a room and call donors. Send out some stewardship emails. Before the madness of Giving Tuesday and end of year start, warm your donors up with some gratitude. Just send them a postcard, an email. It could be a phone call, just telling them how much their gift made a difference. This is a really sweet postcard that I got from Girl Start. This is an example of, in case you're sitting here thinking, I don't know, Rachel just seems like someone who's really into gratitude. I don't know if I have time for all this gratitude. Is this gratitude really going to raise me more money? Here's proof. In one study, those who got an email, this was just an email thanking the donor, just telling them what an impact their gift had made, no solicitation. And then they did an appeal afterwards. Those who got the email gave $45 more than those who did not. That represented a 67% increase in giving. So type me into the chat if you would like to experience a 67% increase in giving. Yay, Ruth. Tara asked how much time between those emails. That is a really good question. I want to say I'm going to say somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks. I'd say definitely less than 6 weeks. So you do this now, it will help you with end of year. Yay, Rebecca's doing a thankathon the week before Thanksgiving. Karina asked a question. I'm going to answer it really quick, but please do type your questions into the chat. And here's something, just take a deep cleansing breath here for end of year fundraising. I've given you a lot of tips. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. If you take half of these tips, if you take everything in my checklist, you will raise more money and be more successful in your fundraising. Let's see here. So, yay. Corina asked, will donors, and this is your time to type in those questions. Will donors, let's see here, will donors ever think that you shouldn't be spending money on thank you items? She's talking about emails, calls, etc. would not cost money, but some items do cost. Okay. Donors don't give to get something like a gift in return from you. The gift that they really want from you is knowing that their gift made a difference. So donors aren't giving to like get a coffee table book. So I would do a phone call, I would do an email. Postcards are really, really cheap. That's very, very inexpensive. It's something that's personalized to the donor that just lets them feel like the fantastic hero that they are for helping make a difference at the organization. You guys ask great questions. I'm going to pop into the Q&A to see some of these awesome questions that you guys asked. And if I haven't answered your question yet, please don't hesitate to pop it into the Q&A. Stacy asked a super interesting question. This is a really popular one that I know Milena sees too, and I'm sure from so many Kid Gift clients who are like, hey, when should I do this? Like, how should I schedule this? And when should I do all this? People always ask me, what date should I start sending out my end of year appeals? And the truth is, it's really different across organizations. I know organizations that start sending out their end of year appeals in September. I know some that start doing it in October. I know some that don't start until Giving Tuesday, which is early this year. So there isn't a one size fits all. But I will say the cadence for sending out solicitations in December for year end, I think that it's a direct mail piece with a remit envelope, then emails, and then a postcard. I think that's fantastic. I would say on top of your other communications, the last day of the year, I would send 3. Okay, I would send 3 the last day of the year. But if they gave the day before, if they gave that morning, we're taking them off the merry-go-round. We're not soliciting someone who literally just made a gift. So you need to have an impeccable system of tracking your donors. But I think that sounds really good. Some organizations send as many as 35 emails the month of December. Some
Wow.
send 8. Some in here send 15. Like we did a poll and a lot of people most of you were doing much smaller amounts, which is why I basically said, if you're doing 5 or under, double it. Because if you can send 3 on the last day alone, but you should be sending more and sending it ahead of time. Why do I want you to be sending more? Because as I said earlier, donors do not read all of your appeals. You're sitting there kind of like MailChimp, where they have that icon of the gorilla and the gorilla's arm is like reaching down to push the button to hit send. And it's like the gorilla's sweating and he's like shaking. And I get you feeling like that before you send an email. You're like, oh my God, this is like the 6th one I've sent. But remember, donors don't read all of your emails. You think they read them, they don't.
Something interesting is for direct mail this year, we've been hearing with the pandemic and supply issues that a lot of printing shops are taking a little bit longer too.
Oh yeah,
So definitely recommend if you're doing a mail appeal, reach out to your printing contact to see how much time in advance they need.
absolutely. Absolutely. Lauren asked, our donors only give when it's a hard ask? I don't know what is not a hard ask. I don't know how she distinguishes a hard ask from a soft ask, but maybe, I mean, I know many people consider a soft ask to be like a reply device. like a reply envelope in a impact report. Do you suggest sticking with donation envelopes or encourage online giving and postcards? Direct mail is still king. And I totally encourage you to do if you have a direct mail program, don't cancel it. Send your direct mail and do a reply device with an envelope. I've seen people do postcards as a lift with their direct mail after it ends, and we certainly heard at least one organization that's doing that as well in here. Okay, so Trudy said, what if your organization funds multiple projects? Is it better to focus on one or highlight several? You need to have one call to action per appeal. So maybe you want to talk about one project for Giving Tuesday and a different project for your end of year appeal. But if you talk, you don't want to confuse me. I mean, like you saw in those offer letters, $50 does this, $100 does this, $250 does this. It was all around like movement therapy programs for someone with Parkinson's disease. The other initiative was around youth leadership, and it was all around equipping their programs on youth leadership. If you're a literacy organization, I mean, well, I'm trying to think of, like, if you were the United Way, and I mean, I'm trying to think of a really good example here. You don't want to give me whiplash on understanding your campaign. I shouldn't have to go to medical school to understand how I can help. So I would say if your projects are really diverse and your storytelling around your project doesn't match with all your projects, pick the one that does, focus on that project, and do one campaign for each project. That would be my advice. Jeffrey said, if you have no paid staff, should that fact be in your appeal? If your appeal is written by, I'm assuming your appeal is written by a volunteer. I mean, then they can certainly talk about, this is why I dedicate my time. This is why this is so important to me. I know you care about unicorns too. I know the local herd is in real trouble. You are the local herd's greatest chance of surviving this holiday season. Please rush your gift. Like that I could see doing well. Like that's a good way of like mentioning that they're a volunteer, and that these are all volunteers that are saving these unicorns' lives. I wouldn't make it the focus though, because if you go overboard in talking about how selfless these volunteers are, it's not about the volunteers, it's about the donor, and that's who you want to be talking about in the appeal. Rebecca said, our biggest need is steel to build fencing to create more space for rescued elephants. Oh, elephants. How awesome are elephants? Is it okay to raise funds for this type of capital expense during end of year? Is it better to stick with general care for our current residents? It's hard for me to answer this question without knowing more about your organization. Rebecca, whenever people talk about, I mean, I would say this sounds like a good campaign, fencing, more space for rescued elephants. But when you say capital expense, I don't know if you're talking about like you're doing a capital campaign. I don't know enough about your organization to be able to advise you here, but if you weren't doing a capital campaign, if you were just like, hey, I want to raise more money to buy steel, maybe you could have a match. Sounds like a pretty buttoned up project where you could have a match, and you could if you felt like you're going to reach your goal, then sure, go for it. But if this is a capital campaign, I wouldn't be able to answer that, because I would need to know how far along you were in closing your capital campaign, because I wouldn't want to do anything to sabotage your success of your capital campaign, like doing appeal too early around it. Ashley asked, what are your thoughts on the from in the email saying Ashley Hart Oregon Zoo Foundation? That's fine. It's coming from you, Ashley Hart. I love that it's Ashley. And it's maybe Ashley at OregonZoo.org, and it's not like director or development director or executive director at Oregon Zoo Foundation. I mean, like, what? I want to know you, like I want to develop a relationship with my friend, my new friend that I'm going to make at the Oregon Zoo, not something vague like development director. That always drives me bananas. I'm going to keep going because you guys asked some great questions. Jessica said, what type of thank yous do you do with Giving Tuesday with a tight turnaround to year end? Email, letter, card, phone call, other? Is kind of goes back to my Arthur Ashe, start where you are, use what you can, do what you can do. You can you have two things right away for Giving Tuesday. Okay. You've got your thank you landing page and you've got your email thank you autoresponder. Those are two things that you just like set it and it's done, and everyone gets those two things, and you're wise to do more on top of that. It can be a thankathon and you get everyone together, you get your board members, you get your volunteers, you call in thank donors who gave for Giving Tuesday. It can be an email. It can be, yay, I love that, Colleen, good for you. Colleen's development team is making quick calls to say thank you to Giving Tuesday donors. Sound like a human being, sound like the awesome, relatable, warm person that Colleen is. You don't want to sound, you don't want to use copy that's so formal it sounds like the IRS is calling to thank somebody. But do the best you can, Jessica, and I'm going to be proud of you. And I know that Melena will too. Katie said, how much time should elapse between donation ask if they've given and we've thanked them appropriately? So if they gave during Giving Tuesday / end of year, and then we ask again last 3 days. Okay, Giving Tuesday and end of year are two campaigns. Giving Tuesday is one campaign. Giving Tuesday is early this year. It's like November. Someone can pop in it's in November, the date. So yay, November 29th. Thank you for doing that, Jessica. You're a rock star. So Giving November 29th and end of year, like depending on when you're sending out your appeals, there's time in between that. So I would say send out, everyone gets Giving Tuesday appeals, you thank them, you report back on how their gift made a difference. Then you ask them to give for end of year. You might start your end of year campaign on December 6th. You might start it on December 15th. You might start it on the 20th. Whatever you do, you're fine to do as long as you've thanked them and you have reported back. It's like a virtuous circle. You ask, you thank, you report back. Rick said, sorry, how do you personalize the subject line? How do I get their first name in the subject line? You use a personalization tag where you put their first name, and it will automatically put first names for every person who you have a first name for. And then you need to think about what your default custom field is for people that you don't have a first name for, whether it's going to be you or friend or something else, or wonderful person or something else. Personalization is really, really key. I'm not advising you to personalize every single subject line you send out. Okay, like use it sometimes. You don't use it. I don't use it every email. I use it like maybe once every 3 emails. And I personalize the first line like in, hey, Becky, or hey, Rick, or hey, Jennifer, or hey, you. I do that like, every other email. What are your recommendations? An anonymous person said, it is so interesting because I get asked these questions always anonymously. What are your recommendations for using emotional donor appeals that still maintain responsible storytelling and don't exploit client stories? I think if you have a good client story about someone who needs help, that the donor can help, and your client is happy to, like, let's say you're using an actual client and they're happy to have your services and they want to share their story because they want, that's their way of giving back to your organization, and they're happy to see other people support you. That's a beautiful thing. I encourage you to be transparent and respectful and don't get in your own way. I'm asked this question frequently, always by an anonymous attendee when I do webinars. I gave an example recently where I shared an example of a hospice organization, and they had helped a mother with a headstone for her child. And they and I worked with them to contact the mother, and in a very sensitive way, showing great sensitivity, ask if they might be able to share her story of how they helped her, so that other people could understand how they might be able to support the organization and what their gift might do. So you just have to be, sometimes I think we just have to come to the situation with all of the respect and grace and gratitude that and sensitivity. And sometimes I think we can go a little bit overboard in overthinking it, and we can think, oh my God, I shouldn't share this person's story, or I'm demeaning them to share their story. But a lot of people that you help are proud of how they've been helped and want other people to be able to benefit just like they did. And it's a source of pride for them to be able to share their story. So I encourage you to think about that, because sometimes we can get too much in our heads. Gracie, that's a beautiful name. I have a neighbor named Gracie. She asked, do you think it makes a difference to send thank you via email or mail? Is one or the other received better by donors? Well, I'll tell you this, Gracie. Um, you know, you know how much your email is read. You can open up your system right now and you can tell me, I have a 30% open rate. I have a 40% open rate. So you know that a certain percentage will not get it via email, but you also know how much time you have in a day. And, we've got our volunteers and students to do thank you cards at Girl Start. And you may have some resources you can use like that. But in terms of what is received better by donors, if you can pull off mail, I encourage you to do it. But and I have a healthy obsession with writing really great thank yous. It's actually one of the many workshops we've done in our program, and I'm going to paste the link in here, and we're doing it again next year, the lucrative art of thanking donors. I would encourage you to, in your thank you letter, be really strategic. Don't just thank the donor for their gift. Reflect on what a kind and compassionate person they are. Tell a story of someone who's helped. The cool thing about thank you letters, and this can be whether it's like a PDF that you email them or whether it's one that you mail, donors will keep that. There's a chance, not every donor, but there's a chance that they will keep that, because like me, they have a file for their taxes of all of the philanthropic gifts that they've made. So that's why I encourage you to work on your thank you copy. Rick asked, do you send the same email each time or change it? Maybe a little different subject line. Yes, you are going to change it. This is something we're covering in my workshop next week. And there's also a whole workbook on how you can do this. You're going to change it a little bit. You're going to change the subject line each time. You're going to change the email a little bit each time. Maybe the first email is like an entire story, and the next two are just kind of like updates. And what I'm talking about here is like the emails here for the sending an appeal 3 times on the last day of the year. I'm going to keep going if it's okay with you, and ask, we've got a few more. Is that okay with you? Okay, sweet.
Yeah, totally.
Sarah asks, there's a competing event, our largest fundraising event, that takes place end of November through December 31st, from an outreach year-end appeal that often gets lost due to all the messaging. How do we overcome this? It's a challenge. Largest fundraising event. How is it that, does your largest fundraising event take place on December 31st? That seems strange. It sounds like she's sending mail from the end of November to December 31st. I don't think, this is an interesting one. I think that people that go to an event, I guess what might be feeling like a challenge for you, Sarah. I'm just pretending I'm Sarah here. And I feel like this might be a challenge for you to manage internally. And it might also be a challenge because you're asking people to like maybe buy tickets for this event. And then you feel like that's messing you up on them just making a donation, an end of year donation. I would think about moving the date of your event so that it doesn't compete with end of year. I don't know if that is going to damage your fundraising there, but when you think about events, you need to be thinking strategically about, I feel like people who go to an event, are may also make a gift to your end of year campaign. Or they may be people that just want to go to an event and aren't going to give to your end of year campaign. I'm not worried about an event taking away from people giving to your end of year campaign, but I would move the event date up if I could, because December 31st is the biggest fundraising day of the year. And I would also tell you, if you're worried about, I'm selling tickets, I'm getting people to buy tables, and you're feeling like these people could be giving me a lot more money as like a major gift that I don't have to do a big fundraising event to get, then you need to really think strategically, because a lot of times, Sarah, organization, oh, they can't move the events or annual holiday light show. Then I think those two things work well. And I think you should still continue to solicit gifts. I think you should totally continue to solicit gifts. Yeah, go for it. I think you might be feeling like more overwhelmed by it than your donors. I could be wrong. I also, if it helps you, any this League of Extraordinary Fundraisers, we do have a program within it that is where we meet once a week for coaching, and it's me and like 9 other women, and it's awesome. I don't have a link to sign up for that on the website, but you can email me and I can send you that link. It's $149 a month, and it's really fun. Betsy Wilson said, do you know of a software that will automatically generate postcards that are sent to let a person know a donation was made in their honor? Some of my favorite, and these, okay, they're my favorite, my number one favorite is the Felt app. You can use it for Android and for iPhone, and it actually sends cards, not postcards. My husband has sent me a few postcards, and I don't know the name of the app that he used, but personally, I like the cards better. I don't know if anyone else uses a app to generate postcards, feel free. I know ones that use cards. Rebecca said she's not doing a capital campaign. So I asked her a question earlier. Then I do your campaign for this deal for the elephants. I guess my biggest question to you in your campaign, Rebecca, would be you thinking strategically about like, okay, if it's going to take $100,000 to buy this steel to help the elephants, can you raise $100,000 with this Giving Tuesday campaign? I don't know how much the campaign costs, but I want it to be something that you can achieve. And if it feels like it's kind of a stretch goal for you, then I encourage you to reach out, and maybe there's a match, some donors that you could get together to combine to do a match. What constitutes a capital campaign is that it is typically the purchase of a building or the purchase of land to build a building. And it is a long-term fundraising projects that lasts several years and has a whole separate fundraising committee, but it's totally separate from just regular everyday fundraising. My anonymous attendee asked, can you explain why board members shouldn't be listed on the appeal letter? It suppresses giving. And I think it suppresses giving because people think, oh, well, they've got all these heavy hitters that are giving to them. So I'm fine. They're going to assume that if those heavy hitters are on your board, that they're giving to you. So they don't need, but you don't, your appeal needs to be about the donor and how they can help. It doesn't need to be about board members. So just put board members on something else. My fundraising friend who's anonymous, and hopefully that will help you. Shireen Bellinghausen said, I wonder if you might have an example where the appeal takes the lens of community-centric fundraising as opposed to donor-centric fundraising. I do not. And I'm certainly, if you have one of those compared side by side, I don't have an example of an appeal like that. I do not. I think we covered everything. This is, oh, Justin said I just hopped on. And yes, you guys, you can grab the slides right now. They are going to be sent out, but that's where you can grab them right now.
I don't know where I went. Did you leave too?
No. Am I gone?
Good. You're here. I just got kicked out somehow, so that's good.
Um,
Well,
hmm, I see you.
good. Well, I'm super happy we were able to get to the rest of the questions. For everyone who was able to tune in today, I'm sure Rachel has already expressed her gratitude. We will be sending out a copy of the slides tomorrow and several resources, including all of the links that Rachel mentioned today, and some more goodies to help you plan your year end appeal successfully. And Rachel, do you have any other notes?
You guys are awesome. I'm super, super happy that you guys joined us. Yay, Rebecca said this was super helpful. Yeah, it's really been a pleasure to get to be with all of you guys. I'm going to pop the checklist in here for those of you who showed up late. I invite you to check it out because it's got just good tips of what should be in your appeal and how to kind of run it through a lens. If I can help you further with your fundraising, I also popped in a link for my program. I hope that you guys have an amazing end of year. I hope that you reach all of your fundraising records. I hope that we've given you the confidence to send more email and send out more appeals. Take a deep cleansing breath before you hit send. You're only human. You might make a mistake or two. It's going to be okay. It happens. It happens to the best of us. I've seen some of the best organizations with the best resources accidentally make a mistake in their direct mail appeal. You're only human and your donors know that and they love you. So it's going to be okay. It's going to be great. And I hope that you have a really, really wonderful end of year.
Awesome. Good luck, everyone, and keep an eye on your inbox tomorrow. Bye bye.
Thank you.